The Chaser Report is recorded on Gadigal land.
Striving for mediocrity in a world of excellence. This is the Chaser Report.
Hello and welcome to the Chaser Report with Dom and Charles, and instead of Dom, we unfortunately are stuck with Mark Humphries again.
I know, I just got nothing on. So Dom's fine. I've just killed him.
No,
exactly. So it's me from now on.
No.
And you'll be gone soon too. Yeah, it'll be me and Sammy J.
This is not true, by the way, listeners. You see a whole lot of people just hitting the subscribe button.
Well, it's funny. I remember when I had my first child, and I've had 4 or 5 since. That I know of. Michael Rowland on ABC, because I think I tweeted about it, and it was around the time that News Breakfast was airing, and so Michael Rowland and Virginia Shrioli announced the birth on TV, and then Michael out of nowhere said, "And he's named the child after me," and then they went on with the show. And so I get all these messages saying, "Welcome to the world, Michael." The kid's not named Michael. This is arrogant, egotistical, off the cuff from a breakfast host. So anyway,
How is Koshi going though?
He's fine.
Well, actually, we've got to throw to an ad break before we get into the show.
Oh, yeah. Do I get to choose what the ad is
but
for?
Should we have... No, but apparently... Oh, by the way, we've had some complaints that some of our ads are natural gas... not natural, like poisonous fossil fuel gas companies.
Well, on the upside, I've heard ads for your show in other podcasts that I do listen to.
Really?
Yeah. So I've never listened to this show, but I've heard ads for this show in other podcasts. That's been exciting.
Oh, that is exciting.
Yeah.
I didn't even know we had any ads.
Yeah, I think it might have been in quite good podcasts as well. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, great.
Yeah, well done.
You mean like Chat 10 looks
Maybe
free.
like Chat 10 looks good. But I think it might have been, could have been like The Rest is Politics or The Rest is History.
That's
Or might have been Gilbert Gottfried's podcast. May you rest in peace. I can't remember, but it was whatever it is that I listened to.
That's all right.
Yeah, that's the end of that story.
Okay, well, why don't we... Well, I know, I'll just tell you,
Sorry, I need to throw to an
on
ad.
today's podcast, we're going to tell you about an existential problem facing the world.
A what problem?
Like an existential problem. Like it could actually lead to the obliteration of the way life works on Earth.
Sure. Sorry, I know the meaning. I just thought you'd mispronounced the word. That's fine.
We'll be back after this break. Okay, we're back.
I heard existential, but that's fine. Lachlan will fix it up in post. He'll fix up my hearing. He'll fix up my hearing in post. I think you were fine.
I mean, that's how Nietzsche pronounced it.
Okay. Well, it reminds me.
Nietzsche.
Well, you love stories about the set of the 1960 Fox film Cleopatra.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and famously, Rex Harrison, in the script he had to say schedule, but he was someone who said schedule. That's right, exactly. And he got into an argument with the director about it. It was just like, can you just say schedule? And he says, I don't say schedule, I say schedule. And then finally the director just said, fine, just let him say whatever he learned in shul. So there you go. That's Old Showbiz Anecdotes with Mark Humphries, coming soon to... Actually, it should come soon.
You should totally do a podcast. I've been trying to get you to do a podcast.
I'm getting closer to...
You could become part of the Iconoclast Network.
I would like that a lot.
Actually, if people want to hear a podcast featuring Mark Humphries telling old showbiz anecdotes, email us at podcast@chaser.com.au and let us know, and we'll forward them on to Mark to sort of bully him.
Yes. And even if I don't get any emails, which is what I suspect will happen, I'll make the podcast anyway. So,
well, that's generally what happens. Yeah.
So it's lose-lose, whatever you do.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep, great. Okay. God, I love alternative media.
No, this is mainstream.
And we'll be back in a moment. All right, we're back.
Yeah, but for the listener,
it feels like
5 minutes.
Yeah,
unless you. And now this is a hint, and we're told we're not allowed to say this to you. But skip forward 30 seconds button is a really useful button.
Yeah,
for some reason,
that's it. And no one's ever thought to do that.
No, people don't.
Well, is that right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they're like me because I'm one of those people who, if I will wait for a green light at the crossing. I have to be really certain that there are no cars coming for several kilometers before I will cross, at a light without it being green. So I guess there's a similar thing. It's like an ad is like, no, they're waiting.
Paying for the whole thing.
Yeah, they're waiting for that green light, which is your beautiful voice.
Thank you. Now, I've got some bad news, Mark.
Oh, no, not again. You're not the producer of 7:30, are you?
Which is, and this problem could lead to the breakdown of civilization.
Doesn't sound great.
and it's not climate change.
Oh, okay. Oh, good.
I think it's a better problem, apocalyptic problem.
Okay.
Because it's also a bit nostalgic.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. All right.
And
now
it's the year 2038 problem. Have you heard about this?
No. It's weird how a nostalgic problem could be from the future, but...
No, because it's essentially the same problem as the Millennium Bug, the Y2K, but in 2038. It's happening again, right?
Get out of town.
Yeah. So this is the story, which is so most of the world's computers run on a thing called Linux, right, or Unix. And so unless you're you've got an iPhone or a Mac or a Windows PC. Actually, it does sound like most of the world's computers, but all the other computers in the world, like essentially anything that, runs in your air conditioner or, is an Android phone or, embedded systems. So anything that runs your smart speakers or runs trains or, factory equipment, all that sort of stuff.
Big stuff.
Yeah. Transport, like all the sort of computerized systems in train systems and trucking systems and things like that.
The world's finest podcasts.
All the cloud services. So every sort of internet thing, whenever you upload something to the cloud, that's all based on Unix. They're the sort of supercomputers as well as embedded computers. Right? They all run on this thing called Unix. Now, the way Unix calculates time is it's defined as, they said, 1st of January 1970, which is around when Unix was invented. That is 0, right? And we're just going to, Unix time is 1st of January 1970 plus how many seconds it is, right? And they went, what we'll do is we'll just count the number of seconds and then computers can just convert that into whatever date and time that is in whatever culture they are. So that'll be the definition. That unit, which all the systems use, is a 32-bit integer, which means that there are only 4,294,967,295 seconds after which that date can exist for.
Runs out at a certain point.
Yeah, which is admittedly like 138 years or something like that. But the way 32-bit integers work on computer systems and the way Unix defines 32-bit integers is half of those seconds are actually negative seconds. So if you want to count back to 1950 or something like that, you can say, it's Unix time minus how many billion seconds, whatever. So that means that there's actually only 2,147,483,647 seconds before the entire Unix system runs out of time. And that will happen on January the 19th, 2038.
Oh, I see. Okay, all right.
Because that is, and I'm just doing these calculations in my head here.
The figures are so small, it's easy.
Yeah.
Don't forget to carry the one, Charles.
24,855 days, that's how many, which is 68 years, which is 2038. And at that point, we face exactly the same problems that we faced, and I think many of our listeners may not have been alive back in 2000, but I don't know whether how old were you?
Well, yes, I was 15, and yes, it
was scary.
It was scary, and I think the other thing that people, now I'm happy to be told I'm wrong on this, but my understanding is because people sort of dismiss it now, the way they sort of you hear this too with the ozone layer as well. It's just like, they said there was a problem with the ozone layer and everything's fine. It's like, yeah, because they addressed the problem, which was to do with CFCs. It's a similar thing with the Millennium Bug. It's like, all this fuss and then nothing happened because people actually worked really hard to prevent the thing from happening. So that's my understanding, is that there was great work that was done to actually prevent it.
Yeah, for young people who don't remember that period, the way to think about it is imagine if the world... imagine the world's response to climate change and the fact that they're not doing anything about it, and then just reverse that and imagine if the world actually did something about a problem.
Yeah, it has happened in the past.
Yeah, and that would be what happened. And you're right, so they spent tens of billions of dollars basically recoding all the world's computers at the time to make sure that they wouldn't fall over. And I don't know, I was reading the history of it this morning just to sort of get a sense of it. And apparently the first was sort of canary in the coal mine style thing. It all happened in New Zealand, right? Because that was the first one to click over to 2000. And what they were particularly looking at, which is quaint given how far we've come since then, is they were looking at the ATM network as what will happen to them because, if the banking system goes down, then, no one will be able to get out cash and then the economy will crash. And it's and that all went fine. And most of the day, planes didn't drop out of the sky. They were really worried about lots of different things.
Yes.
And they did a really good job. The one consequence that I hadn't heard of, but that was actually reported, one of the biggest problems was some pathology lab in the UK hadn't fixed up their systems. And so they sent out, this is really sad, by the way, they sent out 154 false positives for Down syndrome to pregnant women from tests that they'd conducted.
Oh, God. Serious?
In the days after the millennium, because their computer systems had sort of, it was this unintended consequences thing. And it resulted in some of those babies being aborted.
Why did you bring this up?
Oh, no, I just thought it was fascinating. There were real world consequences which could have been much, much larger.
The Chaser Report. More news, less often.
But the really weird thing is that the world back then knew of this other bug that was looming in 38 years' time, but it was sort of seen as such a distant threat,
right? Okay.
That they didn't go, oh well, while we fix up the fucking millennium bug, why don't we just get in,
knock that out,
and knock that over as well? But part of the reason is that the 2038 bug is in some ways more foundational than the millennium bug, which is that it's so embedded into every single Unix system that there's no clear way to solve this problem. And what has started happening is there's a whole lot of cases where things have started falling over as a result of, computer programs going, well, what's going to happen in 21 years? What's going to happen in 20 years' time? And completely freezing as a result of that. For example, I'll give you some examples.
So if you ask ChatGPT what's going to happen in 2038, it'll just collapse.
Exactly, yes.
Just thinking about it is enough to...
So it all started clicking over in about 2018 where real problems started emerging. And it's things like, so there was a pension fund that was doing batch processing of all the pensions. And one of the fields in this spreadsheet that they were doing was they were trying to work out whether it would automatically calculate it, will this person have enough money in 20 years' time for their pension to keep being paid? And as soon as January the 19th, 2018 clicked around...
2038?
No, 2018.
Oh, 2018.
Clicked around. Their entire computer program collapsed.
Oh, I see. Yes, right.
And they couldn't work out. It took them months to work out what was going on because it was such an obscure thing to go, oh, hang on, this computer doesn't understand the concept of anything post January the 19th, 2038, right?
Yeah.
Then there's some other great details, which is, and you should try this at home. Well, actually, we'll do a thing. If you've got an Android phone, what you should do is try and set your date. Go do it now while you're here. Set your date to 2039 and see what happens. Okay, now, have you done it? We'll wait. Okay, so what for a lot of brands of Android phone, if you do that, it actually bricks your phone. And it completely, you can't retrieve it. It just goes into total seizure.
Oh, God. Okay. That's another reason to email Charles.
Well, they can't
They
listen.
can't.
They can't access their email.
There's so many layers to this.
But then then the real problem is that because Linux is used in embedded systems a lot, there's a whole lot of things where, so one of the reasons why they didn't solve it back in the year 2000 was you're going, well, none of the computers that are operating now are going to be around in 2038 because Unix was back then only used on really large supercomputers, and you replace those large supercomputers every 3 or 4 years. Like, they just run out of steam after a while. Whereas now that same computer program, operating system, is being used on embedded devices, which stick around for years. Like, for example, ABS brakes. So most ABS brakes, which are those computer brakes which most cars have nowadays, which was developed by BMW, but it's basically a computerized version of braking, where they, how when you hit the brake hard, instead of skidding, your car now goes brum, 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 right? And it's a low level computer program, but it's based on an algorithm that actually calculates when it should do that and everything like that. That is programmed by a Linux little embedded device, computer chip, and those devices have not changed in years, and there are cars being manufactured today that will seize up. Well, just the ABS brakes will not work after 2038, but they'll still be in circulation.
So basically, the entire world in 2038 becomes an extended edition of the movie Speed.
Look, I'm not saying it won't be funny
that's it.
and dramatic.
We must all keep driving. We cannot stop.
But then also things like automatic four-wheel drives are mostly based on that. So that'll take out four-wheel drive dickheads. I don't know.
I can see that you're not mourning this one.
Inertial guidance systems and GPS receivers. So that's things like if you've got satellites and things like that, but also all our maps. There will be a whole lot of devices that have embedded GPS systems that rely on these things. And the thing is, you can't go, like, whereas in 2000 you could go in and you could reprogram every ATM because it was part of a network. You can't go, like, manufacturers can't go and reprogram every ABS braking system.
Right.
It's on the chip.
Right, sure.
You know what I mean? Like, it's all but the most terrifying thing is things like air traffic guidance and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A lot of those sorts of stuff. So the thing is, whereas in 2000 it was like, will planes fall out of the sky because it ticks over? This one will be like, okay, they'll be flying along. Maybe the planes will be fine, but the air traffic control systems that are trying to land the planes just get stuffed up and freeze and brick themselves.
And again, the whole world be like a flying version of the movie Speed.
Yeah.
So we're really, what you're trying to say, Charles, is that because now it's sort of become a race of which thing is going to fuck us up first.
Yes.
Yeah. And
yes.
and kind of we maybe should make a decision as a society which one we want to knock us out first. And maybe we just set a date.
We said 2038.
Yeah.
And
So
go
that's
January
it.
19.
Yeah. Look, climate change. We think we're kind of well and truly fucked. Let's say 2045.
Yeah.
This is 2038. AI. We haven't worked out a date yet, but
Yeah.
Let's set a date for when we just say let's just wrap it up.
Let's just wrap it up. Yeah. Well,
Speaking of which, hello, goodbye.
Our gear is from Road. We're part of the Iconoclast Network. Well, can Dom come back tomorrow?
Yeah, but I will need my own podcast.
Okay. Well, email podcast@chaser.com.au. You know what to do.
Can I just ask you in person? Oh, that's the audience.
Yeah, the audience.
Sorry, I thought you were just like, if you've got a pitch, email me, right? Don't call me. Don't come in here.
See ya.
Bye.